Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here the wonderful Miss Judith Joy. We've talked before. I had her on my show, and we had a great time, and I told her she's welcome back anytime. And we wanted to talk a little bit more about manifesting your dreams. And she's got a couple of books that I'd like to talk about. And let's just have a great conversation. So tell me a little bit more about how you get people to manifest their dreams.
A lot of people think that it's about the thought that you have, but that's only like a small part of it. It's really the feelings that you have, because your feelings are magnetic. And if you have a thought, then you have a feeling about the thought. It's the feeling that pulls in what you desire. So if you can identify the feelings that you're going for and then start feeling that, then when people are coming and opportunities are coming, you can say, hey, does this match the feeling I'm going for? And the universe says, whoa, you're paying attention. This is what you're focused on. Great. Okay, here's another experience that matches the feeling. Here's another experience that matches the feeling. And this is totally different than if you're focused on everything that's going wrong. Because if you're focused on everything that's going wrong, then that's the feeling that you're vibrating.
Right. So, I'm of course all about karma. I think intent also has a factor in what happens to you. When I say intent, like, so say for instance, of course I would love to have a lot of money, but it's not just for my comfort. There's a lot of people that I really, really want to help. So I've been told by psychics, yes, that this part of what I want to do is going to actually grow, and will start making the money that I've wanted to. That intent, does that actually intensify the manifestation, or is it a factor at all? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think intention is important. Intention helps you define what it is that you would like to have. And if that definition includes a feeling, then you're in a good spot. But if you're manifesting and it's like, well, I want a car and I want this flashy car, but in the back of your mind, you're going, oh yeah, but Bob down the street has a flashy car and he's a jerk. And because he's a jerk, he's got the flashy car. And if I get a flashy car, then I'm going to be a jerk, and da 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 da. You got that feeling that you can't have the flashy car because you're afraid of being a jerk.
Right.
So you'll never get the flashy car. Or at least if you get it, you won't fully enjoy it.
Well,
because you have that button that you're pushing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I've talked to, like, oh yeah, if I win the lottery, I want, this car and blah, 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 the most expensive thing that they can think of. Myself, even if I was to become a multimillionaire one day, I still just want a regular Toyota truck. It's just, they last a long time. They're good vehicles. That's what I want. I don't need that $400,000 car that it's going to cost you an arm and a leg if something goes wrong. But on top of the intent, does the universe knows how you think? And so say, like, for some people, when their dreams actually come true, Some of them come faster than others. I mean, to me, I think the experiences that I'm having is preparing me for the future and what is to come. I mean, is that how it works?
In part,
Okay.
we have intentions that we've put out there, either through thought or through feeling.
Right.
And if you know where you're going, you can constantly check, is this the feeling that I want? Is this the direction that I want to go? But to just put it out there and then go, okay, I'm sitting back and waiting, it doesn't quite work like that.
Right. Yeah.
If you keep your heart moving in the direction that you want, and then you take some inspired actions, then you're going to get there, because the universe is paying attention to you. And if you're saying, yes, this is the feeling that I want, and it's like so good, then the universe can come in and go, okay, here's an example of how you can feel that. Here's another way to feel that. Here's another way. You can end up with 100 different ways to feel the feeling that you're going for. It doesn't have to be only the one way that you've decided.
Right. So when I sit and I'll either meditate or, I guess you'd say, daydream, what have you, about what I would like to do on top of what I'm already doing. We want to get some property that's kind of away from everyone, and we want to, grow our own vegetables, have the chickens and goats and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I have family that tell me, oh, you don't want to do that, it's too much work and this, that, and the other. But for them, yeah, but my feelings is like of that's like content for me, just to be able to grow my own vegetables. I'm doing that in my house right now. My backyard, I've got all kinds of peppers and onions and lettuce and tomatoes and, all these vegetables. And it brings me such joy to go out there and see them growing. And
okay, so let's work with that content and joy. So those are words.
Right.
How does your body know that you are content and that you have joy? What physical sensations are you experiencing when you have it?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about that last time. It's like a butterfly feeling in my stomach.
Okay. So that butterfly feeling is what you're focused on. So you can imagine the land that's self-sustaining and this butterfly feeling. And you just pour the feeling back and forth.
Okay.
And then when it feels neutral, then you know that you're good. You don't have an attachment or a resistance to it. And, interestingly, the people in your life who are objecting to that are objecting because of their own stuff, not because of you.
Right.
And if you're in total alignment with it, their objections will actually decrease.
It's funny because I have a cousin. I love him dearly, but I tell him, this is what I want to do. I'm a grown man. Okay. let's get that straight. I'm a grown man, but I told him, hey, I'm want to move up towards Austin. And of course I got the whole, oh no, you don't want to do that, it's too expensive and blah, 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 blah. But that feeling, that butterfly feeling that I always got when I came here and then got around because I'm very attracted to water. So they got the lakes and the rivers and creeks here, and they're actually clean. You could literally go out and drink the water if you wanted to. Wow. It's just, those are the things that I was focused on. When you compare the cost of living, it's pretty much comparable with Houston. The only difference is that the property taxes are a lot more here, but I don't own any property. So it's really not that bad when it comes to rent and stuff. And, I don't have that obligation. I have to stay in this one spot. So of course I didn't listen. I wanted to do what I felt like me and my wife wanted. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean?
That's the way to do it. You can get so good at identifying the feeling that you want
Mm-hmm.
that you can go to a map and pick out the location without knowing anything else, just based on the feeling.
Right.
Yeah, I did that when I got married
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago. 3 of my 4 kids moved home, for various different reasons.
They never go away.
In fact, one's coming down tonight. But I was like, okay, instead of pushing them out, because theirs was only temporary.
Right, right.
And my husband is from Florida. And so I knew that we would get a place in Florida. And I'm like, well, let's go. Now's the time.
Right.
And so we got a place in Florida, but we're looking around. And we were in the real estate office, and she shows me a map and says, okay, today we're going to look at this area. Now, I had already identified the feeling. I looked at the map and said, that's it right there. And I pointed to the building that had it.
Oh, wow.
And that's where we are today.
So it's really true. You should trust your gut. I mean,
Oh my gosh, yes. That's the biggest, it's the biggest fallacy, is to believe other people.
Mm-hmm.
Trust yourself and learn to trust yourself. I mean, start with just a little bit of, for dinner, I want whatever. Then pay attention to what your gut says.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going, for dinner, I want hot dogs, and you're sort of going, ugh, at the idea of having hot dogs, don't have them.
Right.
If your body says, hey, today I want a huge salad, and I'm going to put a little chicken on top of it, and you're going like, yes, follow that. But do it with everything that you do. What you wear, any jewelry that you put on, the thoughts that you have. If you have a thought and the thought goes, and you're sort of cringing by it, going, okay, that's not the one for me. I'm going to choose a different thought.
Well, being that I am in the paranormal field and go out and do investigations, we do wear things with, we put the intent on it as protection when we
Right.
go in. And I mean, that really works with the universe, at least to my experience.
Well, you're telling the universe, if the actual thing works or not, doesn't matter. You believe it does, and you've set the intention that you are protected.
Exactly.
Therefore, you will be.
Now, when it comes to things that happen to you, for myself, I've taken the physical ailments, and I've kind of used that as, how do I explain it? An opportunity.
Okay.
I, of course, have pretty bad spinal problems. I've had several surgeries, what have you. I had to retire. And so I could have just sat around and watched TV every day, but I decided that I wanted to really, really get serious about my podcasting. Like my grandfather, when he got injured at work and had to retire early, he spent more time working in his wood shop. And I mean, he made some of the most beautiful stuff, doll houses and trains and all these different things. And of course, he made a lot of money doing so, but he loved it. When these things happen to you and you have that choice, you're at that fork where it's like, do I go down the pity party road, or do I turn something more positive? That, I suppose, has a big factor when it comes to the universe and helping you to achieve whatever goals that you may have. I mean, my goals had to change, my dreams changed because of my physical ailments, but I didn't have to, crawl into a little ball in the corner and just, fade away. What is that, like a reward from the universe when you've taken this negative thing that's happened to you and spun it more positive?
The thing is, you always have free choice.
Right.
Things happen, but how you respond to it, that is your choice. And if you want to curl up in a corner and watch TV for the next 20 years, that's a choice.
Right.
But then you're going to manifest based on that. If you choose to do it for a week and going, okay, this is nuts, I'm not doing this anymore, that also is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people can go, oh, I'm disabled. Okay, flip the switch. Now my life is great and I'm going to do whatever. It's usually a transition. And sometimes we're down and sometimes we're up. But know that wherever you're at, you don't have to stay there. Even when your vibe is really, really good, you can always get better. You don't have to stay there. And if you want to get worse, go ahead. It's your life, your choice. But I'm going to tell you that when your vibe is high, when you are grateful, compassionate, kind, loving, calm, peaceful, things like that, life can happen so easily. You may still have a lot of things to do to create something, but it can happen with a thought. Versus when you're low vibe, depressed, anxious, shame, blame, guilt, all those things, it takes a lot of effort to get anything done. And then you're playing the victim. So the question is, do you choose to be the victim and be in all of this force universe? Or do you choose to step into your power and manifest as a victor?
Right.
That's your big choice. And then from there, okay, let's set the vibe. Let's go. My dad used to have a sign. He loves quotes. He used to have a quote that said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
That absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to agree with that 100%. And I feel like it's also very important that you stay as positive as possible, because you are a role model to someone. Somebody looks up to you. There's always someone. I mean, even if it's your grandkids or your children, maybe a friend down the road.
If that's what gets you up in the morning, great.
Yes.
But you don't do things for other people. You
Right.
do things for yourself. For example, with gratitude. When you're sending out gratitude, you're sending out kindness and you're sending out all these good vibes that other people can benefit from. However, what most people forget about is that you're feeling it.
Right.
When you have gratitude, even for something that went bad, when you feel it, your life improves.
Right. And I've always told people, you try to not put that pressure on other people that, you put too much into where people, I'm trying to explain this the right way. I don't know. It's almost like a God complex. You know what I mean? When you feel like, let's say for instance, I'm watching a football game,
Okay.
and my team's not doing very well, and I'm saying, well, you know what? I'm just not going to watch anymore. I bet you they do better if I'm not watching. Like it's me that's causing this to happen.
Yeah, like you have to wear your lucky socks.
Right. And if you put pressure on people that they bring you your joy, then that's putting too much pressure on other people. You should manifest your own joy and not
Everything
think that
comes from within you.
right. So I guess
To
I'm what I'm
attract
getting at.
to you originates within you. So if you're trying to attract something, whatever that is, get the feeling within you first.
Right.
Now, if you want to be successful with your podcast, get the feeling within you of what that success feels like. And think about all the people that you will help. And think about all the interesting people that you're going to talk to.
Right.
And what you can do with any money that comes in. And possibly it will be an offshoot to something else.
That's something that I've actually had that conversation with a couple of psychics. There's like you're leading towards something else that's bigger.
Mhm.
And so, I'm grateful for that, and I hope it happens. But my main goal has always been, because, and I've told you before that there's so much negativity in the world, and you see a lot of YouTube videos and on the news and all this negative stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this particular show is to put that positivity out there and to help someone, to motivate somebody, hopefully resonates with someone to where they're like, you know what, I haven't really tried to go for my dreams. Maybe it's time that I get up and I do it. And if even
Okay.
just one person,
Let's
then
try
I've
an
accomplished
experiment.
something. Okay.
I want you to inhale the color white. And you can make it iridescent if you want. Then when you get up to the top, exhale any gray. Now inhale the color white. And exhale any gray.
Okay.
Inhale the color white, keep going. It's filling your whole body. And the gray is being exhaled. Now, since you said that you had spine problems, I want you to inhale and imagine all of the white going into your spine, collecting any gray that's still residing there. And you're blowing it out. What feels different in your body right now?
I have more of a calming, I guess you'd say, of my nerves and things. That's been my biggest problem, is the nerve damage. That I'm working on. Let's
Okay.
just say I haven't given up.
Now, inhale the white again. Exhale any gray. And now breathe normally as you imagine living in the white. Imagine living in the sparkle. What thoughts come up for you?
For me, it's hiking.
Okay. And
So
what feeling does hiking give you?
it's that same kind of butterfly feeling, because I'm close to nature, and I feel myself grounded when I'm in nature.
Right.
And then, especially when things get stressful, we head out there, either put our feet in the water or just sit and look at the nature. But I'd love to be able to start climbing those hills, and that's my goal.
Okay. So now inhale the white, inhale the iridescent. And in your imagination, I want you to climb those hills. Imagine lifting one foot and putting it in front of the other. Lift the other foot. Keep walking. Feel your body moving. And I want you to imagine putting your hands in the air, going, yes, did it. So even though physically in your body right now, your body's going, we need a little more repair first, please. You can take yourself there in your imagination. And in your imagination, you can physically move your body as if you were actually moving it. And this is the same technique athletes use.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I used to be a gymnast,
Mhm.
and they talk about picture the routine before you do it.
Mhm.
And there's two ways to do it. I can stand over here, look at someone over there as if that person is doing it, or I can be that person. And I can imagine jumping backwards, and I can imagine gliding forwards, and I can imagine kipping up, and I can imagine, and I haven't done gymnastics in years, but I still have the motions.
Mhm.
I can imagine them. And just imagining them, I stand taller. Just imagining it, my stomach pulls in. I don't have to go do it. It would be great if at my age I could still do it.
I guess
But
we could to a degree, right?
yeah. But if you imagine it from the inside, as if you are doing it, you know, when you take a step, it's not a blank feeling. You can imagine that your foot is coming off of the ground. You can imagine that your thigh is engaging. You can imagine that your butt's engaging. You can imagine that your shoulders are moving forward. You can imagine that your breath is expanding. You can imagine that your arms are swinging.
Now, there's only one problem.
What?
Since I lost all that weight, I don't have a butt anymore. So
You still have muscles. And since we're imagining it, let's imagine the muscles.
Well, you know, there's always a method to my madness, as they say. And the reason why I picked the Vibes to be in both the name of the network and the show, I mean, there's a purpose behind it. And when we talk about vibes, we also talk about frequency. Now, are you familiar with the raising of your frequency?
Yes.
Okay, can you kind of explain that better than I can to people? Because I don't think that a lot of people really truly understand what that means.
Think of it in terms of a radio.
Mhm.
If you're down at 91, then you're listening to whatever's at 91.
Mhm.
If you change the frequency of the radio and you're now at 103, you're listening to whatever's at 103. You can't hear the 91 anymore.
Mhm.
The same is true of our consciousness frequency. When the frequency or the vibration is a low vibe, you know, it's like 50 or 100, then you can only have those experiences that match that. If you want to change the vibe, if you want to change your frequency, you have to move. You can't stay in that space and experience what's going to happen when you're at a higher vibration. Now, vibrations, according to David Hawkins, go from 0 to 1,000. So you can imagine that if most people are down at 50 or 100, that the world can feel like a pretty desperate place.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be that way for you, because you don't have to choose to listen to that radio station. You can change your station by changing your thoughts and your feelings and move to a different station that better suits you.
So when you want to raise those vibrations. It all
Take your
has to,
attention off of the low vibe.
so you just focus on the positive. I mean, I guess there's more than just saying, oh, I just want to be positive. It's your actions that you do every day.
It's the feelings about that.
Okay, so it's with the feeling. So whenever I go out to, say, Walmart, and just happen to strike up a conversation with somebody there, and I have no ill will towards anyone.
Okay.
Irregardless of what the news might tell you, oh, you're white, so you are automatically a supremacist or whatever. All the crazy things they say. I look for what's on the inside of people. I don't care what you are on the outside. I mean, that's great, whoever you want to be, or I mean, whatever your color your skin is, what church you go to,
Yeah.
whatever. Those things don't matter to me. It's when I can talk to someone, what's on their inside. And I think if we all focus more on that, we could raise the vibrations in this world and make things a lot better than what they are.
True. And it all starts within you. If you change your vibration and you accept responsibility for yourself. And part of that is going, yeah, okay, that worked before. It's no longer working for me. I'm moving over here. I'm going to a different radio station. I don't want to listen to smooth jazz anymore. I want to listen to rock or whatever it is. I want to listen to country. You've made a conscious choice to change. Right. And now you're going, okay, that didn't, this station down here doesn't match anymore. So I'm changing the channel. I'm changing the channel. Oh, there's an interesting station. I'm going to stay there for a while.
Okay. Now, say you have a room full of people and there's a party going on.
Okay.
And pretty much everybody is kind of on an even keel as far as the frequency of the room. And you have somebody come in, let's say they're bubbly, they're happy, they're a little bit higher in frequency when they come in. That changes the frequency of everybody in the room, correct? Just as if somebody that was on the lower end of the spectrum can bring down the room.
Yeah. You've got a new combination coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that combination changes, the room changes. If everybody's coming in and they're all about the same, the room's going to be the same. And that's one reason why when someone starts complaining, it's so easy for everybody to go, yeah, I have something to complain about. I want to be part of that group. I'm going to complain.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody that comes in and they're bubbly and sparkly, and then all of a sudden everybody is like, oh, she's having fun.
Mm-hmm.
What is she doing? What is going on over there? I'm interested in that. You move in that direction.
There's a connection with everything. I don't think a lot of people realize that. If you see that experiment, I believe it was a Japanese scientist that had put positive energy towards water.
Oh, Emoto.
Yeah, and you saw that the molecules changed, and then when you did the negative, the opposite, it would change to something else. Mm-hmm. There's so much connection amongst us. I actually saw they had one of those full spectrum cameras or whatever they call it, where they had a psychic that was sitting in a chair, and then you had a couple of people sitting on the couch, and they wanted to see what would happen if this guy was trying to read them. And there's a color spectrum around everybody, right? And you could actually see that his colors moved and combined with this other guy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I always wondered, how does that work? You have a psychic or somebody, that is
We're
able
all
to
connected.
Right. It's just a matter of allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so many things that's fascinating about this. That just the curiosity alone ought to help people to gravitate to that positivity. It's amazing how things change in your life when you change your attitude.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities that open up. I was talking with someone this morning about people changing through lifetimes. And she was saying that this morning when we were talking, she was saying that her grandparents lived through horse and buggy and then cars and now airplanes, all of those changes.
Right.
And there were logical changes going along. And I was like, yeah, but guess what? As soon as we had the computer chip invented, which someone had to imagine first,
Right.
look at all this explosion in changes that have come along.
Yes.
And the part that is amazing to me is that all of this works because of quantum physics, because people believe in it.
I've noticed that, when the computers first really came out, the ones that you had at your home, we got them in our school, and everybody was really excited, and it was, it opened up a new world. Even though it was, like if you made a picture, there were little blocks that you colored in, and you had to change this disc and do all these crazy things, but it was a time of excitement. And then as things progressed, now it's like most people rely on technology for everything. I mean, you remember you got a map or something if you wanted to figure out where you wanted to go, and now you just, punch a couple of things in your phone, and this is where I want to go, and it tells you, go here, make a right, and go, blah 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 blah. Even tells you if there's bad traffic ahead.
Right.
All these crazy things. I think it's dehumanizing us myself, because we're relying too much on the technology. I mean, what are your feelings on that?
I think there's good and bad. We couldn't be talking without it.
Right, right.
If you're relying on it, and if you are handicapping yourself because of it, then perhaps it's not quite the best.
Right. Yes.
So even as we're doing this with podcasting, and we're talking and we're sharing with people, know that you can go outside, know that you can talk to people. You can talk to them one-on-one. You can go to the park and talk to somebody.
Yes.
And build that side of yourself up also.
Well, when it comes to information and communication, I that part of technology is what I really like, because, like you said, we're doing this show, we're getting it out to lots of people. There's different formats people can listen to it on, and they can get a great message from it. But I've also noticed with a lot of the younger generation, they don't want to talk. They just want to text.
Yeah.
They don't know how to talk to people when you get out in public. Me, I talk to anybody. I'm one of those kind of people. I love to talk and, joke around with people. But a lot of the younger kids, that they're constantly like this, or they're playing video games.
Yeah.
And that's how they communicate with people, through these things.
It's not all bad. My youngest is a streamer.
Okay.
He plays games and streams, and people watch him. But he actually has a chat function on his game where he can talk to people as he's playing. And he's got a nice community of friends from that. And they actually have conversations.
That part of it, I get it. But sometimes it's just they get so lost, and that's all they do is they send messages by typing it instead of actually that face to face. I get it. You got somebody in the UK, you can't, walk to the UK, but
that's what I was talking about, only developing the one skill.
Right.
They developed this one skill of how to communicate through technology. All they have to do is develop another skill of how to communicate person to person. And because they've waited, they have more experience communicating through technology, so that's easier for them. That doesn't mean it's impossible to communicate with people. My other son was always about the body, got done with school with a kinesiology degree, massage therapist, and he was doing strength and conditioning coaching.
Mhm.
He didn't like going out to get the clients. So he ended up getting a job in commercial real estate, going out to get clients. He learned how to do that.
Right. Well, when it comes to anything, I guess that whole analogy of how do you look at a glass that's half full, or is it half empty?
Yeah.
See, I totally understand. It's just sometimes people get so lost. The self-service at the store, you go up there,
Oh,
you
but
scan
that's
and you go.
wonderful. That is so wonderful. Look at all the good from it.
But I'm that person that I would rather wait that extra 10 minutes to go up and talk to the cashier.
But isn't it wonderful that you've got options?
Oh yeah.
And isn't
I
it
agree.
wonderful that if you're really in a hurry, you've got that option available? And isn't it wonderful if you're not feeling well, you don't have to stand in line for 10 minutes waiting.
True.
And isn't it wonderful that technology is such that the stores honor you, respect you, trust you to do it?
Well, I think I should get paid as a cashier when I go check out my own stuff. Give me that discount.
But it's like, look at how wonderful all of this is. And isn't it wonderful that you get the choice to stand in line and talk to the person in front of you or behind you? And isn't it wonderful that you get to look at the cashier and have a smile on your face when you don't have a mask on? And isn't it wonderful?
I'm in Texas. We don't wear masks if we don't have to.
You can put a smile on your face even if you're wearing a mask. It's you that you're wearing the smile for. It's not the other person.
True.
So start looking at what you're so grateful for, and it's so wonderful. And oh my goodness, this is great. And then find reasons why it's great.
My goal has always been that I want to at least make one person smile every day. And
Okay.
so
who's
I think it's a great
smiling
goal.
today?
What's that?
Who's smiling today?
Well, of course I am, but
Okay.
I went to go pick up my medicine at the pharmacy, and I joked around with the cashier and made her smile, kicking up conversations with the people around me. And I mean, that's.
So how many times are you successful today? And it's only partway through the day.
Very, very successful.
Yeah.
And I love doing my dad jokes when I get up there too.
What's your best dad joke?
Oh, whenever they say, do you want your milk in a bag? And I say, no, if you don't mind, keep it in the jug. It's a lot less messy that way. Just those goofy little things. I drive my kids crazy, but my wife says they act like it bothers them, but they actually love it because they still send me dad jokes.
Yeah. When you're gone, those are the dad jokes they'll remember.
That's right. That's what I want to leave behind for my kids is those memories, put a little smile on your face. Before we end the show, I still wanted to talk to you a little bit about your books. So tell us about them.
Okay. First book that I wrote was Surviving Your Teenager and Being Happy Anyway. This is a guide for the parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for the teenager to change. It's for the parent to step up and be all you can be, regardless of what the teenager is doing. Now, the teenager, they're going to do whatever they do.
This is true.
You can't change them. And their job is to experiment. Their job is to figure out what's right and wrong for them.
Mm-hmm.
You've done your job by guiding them up to this point. You're there as a safety net as they make choices.
Okay.
So be the safety net, but be kind, be loving. And when you can do that and you can be open, then it's going to be a much easier relationship.
Yes.
If they come with like, oh my God, this happened, and, da, 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 and you jump in with, well, I'm telling you, and that's wrong, and you should do this. That's a totally different conversation then.
That's true.
Wow. That's an interesting way to look at it. And then they'll figure out the solution on their own, or they may ask you a question that will help them. But it's a different conversation, and you get to stay in your high vibe. You never want to let somebody steal your high vibe, even yourself.
Well, one thing I had to learn, and even though I still slip from time to time, is
Oh, we all do.
to give that advice if they want the advice.
If they ask.
If they ask. Now, of course, when they're little, I think you need to take a little bit more control of that. But as they get older, they need to figure out stuff on their own. A lot of times they have the answers and don't realize they have the answers, which is safe with all of us.
Yeah, but when they're little, you're going into a restaurant and then they act up and then you're mad at them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change it up just a little bit and go, okay, guys, we're going into a restaurant and we need restaurant manners right now. So what are those manners? And then it's a reminder. And then you get to the restaurant and they don't do that. You're going, hey, we talked about this. Oh, yeah. Or, but I'm really angry. I'm like, okay, you can still be angry, but you still have to have restaurant manners.
I'm definitely better at it as a grandpa than I was as a dad.
Well, as a grandpa, you get to give them back.
This is true.
So the second book is Dear Future Lover, Bring Your Book Boyfriend to Life. And this is how I attracted my husband. This is filled with about 50 different principles that apply to manifestation. And each chapter has one principle, a little bit of a journal entry, because I wrote a journal to my future husband as if he was already here. And then a little bit of how it actually showed up.
That's interesting that you say that, because I've read the book The Secret, and watched the little films about it and everything, and they talk about living as if you were already at that point where you want to be, kind of like fake it till you make it, I guess you'd say. Is that the right way of putting it?
Well, that's the same thing that we were doing, although they never mentioned vibration and they never mentioned frequency. And that's really the secret to the whole thing.
Right.
So by living it, imagine it, feel it. And then the world will happen.
And of course, being grateful, that changes your attitude very much.
Yeah. When I was learning about gratitude, I was doing grateful for the mistress because da, da, da. And when I got to, she took him off my hands, I was like, oh, this is fabulous. I love her. I've never had a bad word to say about her. She actually helped me. And so I had to, dig deep to find out what it was that I was really grateful for.
Yeah.
But, and she's scared of me. And I'm like, okay, fine, you're scared of me.
You're really a tyrant.
Yeah, I'm so mean.
Well, I kind of liken it to, say, like my grandson, he loves little Hot Wheel cars. And he's always like, ooh, every time he gets one, that lighting up in his eyes, and the smile on his face, and he's always playing with them. And because he's so grateful for having those, Papa spoils him a little bit too much and buys lots of Hot Wheels.
But that's great.
But I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. I'm sure that if he approached it like, oh, another car, you're like, well, that's over. I'm not doing that anymore. It's
true. The other ones, their likes change every month, so they're like really into something one month, and then they forget that and get into something else.
But isn't that wonderful that they can let go of what's not working for them anymore?
Yeah, I think that's very important too. You have to learn to let go. I think when you can do that, then the universe will give you abundance.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
So what is it that you can let go of in order to feel more of that butterfly sensation?
But most of the stuff that I have, I mean, there's a few things that I would like to keep. For the most part, I can get rid of most of the stuff. And the goal is that we downsize to the point where, I mean, we could live in an RV if we wanted to and just travel.
That would be fun.
I think the
For you,
experiences.
For you, that would be fun.
Mhm.
For me, I would have a difficult time with it.
And that's okay. Everybody's different.
And that's why we have houses, and that's why we have apartments, and that's why we have low buildings and tall buildings and RVs that are all different sizes and shapes, and
I just feel like I want the experiences. I don't need to be tied down by stuff. And my kids, they got their families that they've started, and of course they want to stay right where they're at. And I'm willing to, a lot of the stuff you want, take it. And I was at that point in my life where when I was taking care of my boys, I wanted to stay in that one spot so they could go through school. They had the same friends and that environment that they were used to. Once they were graduated out on their own, it's like I could do whatever I want now.
Yeah, very true.
Just do it. Now, if anybody wants to get a hold of your books, how do they do so?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple, Kobo.
Okay. I think I need you to send me those links again, if you don't mind.
Okay,
And
will do.
I'll put those in the description so everybody can just click on it and go to it. I really suggest that you do so. Judith is such a wonderful person. I bug her all the time.
And I'm available for coaching and for speaking. So, and for
Okay.
teaching classes.
And you have a website.
Yes, yeswithjoy.com or judithjoy.com. They go to the same place.
Okay. And we will put that in the description. And then, of course, social media. I know you're on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube.
Okay. We'll get those links up so people can follow you and get some great advice. I appreciate what you do. And I really appreciate you coming back on the show. I enjoy talking to you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
As I said before, anytime you want to come back, the forum's always open to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I want to thank everybody that has joined us today. If this is your first time visiting the channel, I hope you come back. Please subscribe. If you're already subscribed to the channel, thank you for coming back and sticking with us. We do what we do because of you. Judith, until the next time, I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just going to say when we meet again.
Okay. Sending love to you and everyone.
I appreciate that. All right. Everybody take care. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network